Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 172nd episode of Book of Hours, our first run playing as the artist. I'm System Chalk, and I have no idea what I'm up to. I do now keep my notes on a tablet again, so let's see if I can find a little more about what we're up to today. Do have a rose and scale entry. Okay, so yes, we were doing something with preliminary meter. So I had rose and scale listed. Oh, of course, inks of power. Right, okay. This makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. We set aside the FET. We are bringing in Mrs. Kill. I might work at the Sweet Bones, although that's not necessary. I believe we've opened up all of these areas, so there will be a question in terms of the perilous path, but we'll probably set that aside for later. So if I recall correctly, the big idea for today is just how many of these things am I actually going to be putting towards leveling up. So we've got 3, I want 5, and I don't seem to have that many elements of the soul tied up right now. Okay, so we are getting Savage Hymns. We are... I don't even remember what this would be. I think in this case, let's... Almanac of Entrances. Okay, so I'm going to make a guess here and say... we're probably going for Secret Thresholds, Earth Sign, Confounding Parable, Savage Hymn. We've already got a Newman. Maybe I'll put the Enduring Reflection and the Horizon Sight in. So 1, 2, 3... Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I count 7 of the 8 that I'm going to need. Oh, and a gossip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if I put the Enduring Reflection and the Horizon Sight in, I basically get it for free. Well, not for free, but you know what I mean. But I can hope for Fear, Intuition. We've already got the Gossip. So I suppose the better way for me to think about this is to say that I probably shouldn't need to give up my harder to earn items. Okay, so this also suggests to me that maybe I should be trying to read another book. Ah, yes, okay, easier said than done. Maybe I give that a pass and we focus on... This is a tough one, actually. So there's a version of this that says I should open up these as quickly as possible. And then there's another version of this that says I wait. I'm slightly inclined towards opening. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to spend all day trying to come up with a perfect plan. So let's say we're not going to read any books for the season, or at the very least, if I do, I think if I do, it's going to require a pretty significant shift in thinking. But I think there are some other things that I can get set up in between. The possible exception to this would be something like the Serpent Route, or the Scar in the Sky. Okay. Sorry, I'm indecisive. So the Serpent Route would give me more Rites of the Roots. And if I went for Rites of the Roots, that would be a Nectar and a Moth combination. So Inks of Revelation would be on deck for that. And then I suppose from there we'd do... You know what? The more I think of it, the more I think Rites of the Roots is actually an appropriate choice. So... well, that it may be, but maybe we wait until after we've got the Newman. Okay. Yeah, so that plan's not going to work. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to keep my powder dry. I will do the help with letters just so we can make a little bit of money. We'll talk with Mrs. Kill to see what we can get with memories over the course of the day. And if the day goes a little too far, what we'll do is we'll maybe throw a couple of the easier to restore items into the preliminary meter upgrade. I'm thinking probably what I'll do is I'll just manually get something like Fear rather than focus too much on trying to get those rare ones. Okay, I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. And it's raining, which would probably be good for something I would do with Rites of the Roots, but I don't see how I can make this work with preliminary meter. Alright, Mrs. Gill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. Mrs. Gill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. So right now this is going to be a little bit of an autopilot just as we try to get what we need for Inks of Power. Again, that's a rose and scale skill. But part of this is also recognizing I've got about half a minute for the remaining items here. So there's one of two things that will happen. Either I'm going to get through the day and I decide, okay, it's not worth it to try and read one of these other more difficult books. The alternative, at which point I would open up these various crates, and then alternatively I say, okay, you know what, we're going to try reading the tablet. And at that point, I sort of repurpose the day towards using these elements of the soul to level things up. Okay, this is actually pushing me more towards the idea of working with the serpent root. I'd kind of like it if I could use something with Inks of Revelation. I imagine that's going to require sort of a full day's work, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, so Unhatched Hymns. Hymns attributed to St. Lucia, the eyeless patron of glassworkers, and name of the hour called Meniscate. The hymns venerate every sanctioned hour, celebrating them as the sun undivided, but also suggesting that each hour may become the next, madrigad to watchman, watchman to wolf, and so on. The hymn of the phases celebrates the Meniscate from whom we do not turn, for the truth which is beauty, the beauty which is truth, and the perfect balance between the two. The hymn of the Reflections, more puzzlingly, celebrates the Meniscate as sister of Janus, mother of shadow, whose visage wondrous in emptiness can reveal all truths. So there's the savage hymn that we were going to work with. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. So I don't want to waste the elements of the soul, so we do that to kind of get ahead, but we definitely want to sort of net out. Like the idea here is just so that the day nets out, a positive dollar value, but we still actually want to use the element of the soul unless there's absolutely nothing else for me to work with. A novel method of invocation and contrition, ingenious and rather beautiful techniques for entreating the names of the hours, developed by Roy Morrow, who styled himself the Sage Knight. The techniques rely on the unique qualities of the Arecapaean tongue. Morrow professes himself surprised that they serve better to entreat the names of the vagabond than the names of the lantern or winter hours. Morrow demonstrates that the preliminary meter techniques can be used with sufficient rows to invoke the vagabond's names, transforming an enduring reflection into something wider of sky. There's our confounding parable. The Almanac of Entrances, a handbook of sealed and unsealed byways and shortcuts through the bounds, compiled by Willem Harries in the 1860s during his term as librarian of Hush House. Harries discusses the role played by the Legion de Sul and the Company of the Wolf in Gold in warding the Bounds against outside influences. He warns that Bounds travelers may themselves be considered outside influences. The Mansis is Ys lacks walls. Ys and the Mansis both have their gates, and there may be no gate without a wall. Thus the paradox resolves, as all those who walk in dream will learn. But the wood has neither gate nor wall, and so it is the wood whose roots may creep after us into the hours of our waking. Yeah, so I'm too short still. And again, I could take the Enduring Reflection and the Horizon Sight right away. I do also need to feed the Stimfling at some point. So yeah, I'm back to kind of the old problem I had before. So if it comes down to it, so fear is a likely candidate for sure. Intuition is also likely. At this point, actually, I think it's probably unwise for me to try and use the Enduring Reflection and Horizon Sight. In fact, while I'm talking with Mrs. Kill, I think there's probably a better argument for me to... I think probably I should just get the Fear and Intuition on its own. So... if I'm going to do that, let's also think about what my strategy for Inks of Revelation would be. So we'll put the Fet down here, and I'll maybe put a Trist down here as well. It'll take me a long time to read the book, so that's not too much of a worry. Let's do that at Abbess Nona's desk. So this is the Serpent Root, a massive rootstock, shiny with age, but still somehow viable. Tiny spidery scratchings marked with embedded eggshell shards can code a cryptic message. So let's use Rites of the Roots to read this. We'll also need Crack Track. I can master this mystery. So I have a few minutes, but I do want to make sure that I'm moving promptly on this. So I think Fear and Intuition will be the two that I shoot for. And then from there, I'll want to restore an Earth Sign. So with all of that, we'll take our Whist. At this point, everything we have is sort of... it kind of has like a monetary value. Actually, what we'll do, I won't use the Whist. I'm going to prioritize the Metal, the Shaft, and the Core. So the idea here is that these will be the ones that I use to level up skills, but in an emergency, I will be able to use the Whist or the Foss to level up what I want in terms of Inks of Revelation. So I want to keep those as a last resort, whereas the Core, the Shaft, and the Metal aren't tied to things that I want to level up right now. So in this case here, let's take the... we can use the Core to read a Fear book. I'm trying to remember where we were in the... let's do Sevenfold Slaying of the Seven-Coiled. And so that's the Fear. And then in terms of Intuition, we can use Ambrose's desk. That's a confounding parable. That would have been very sad if I didn't do that. High Insight. Okay, here we go. I don't recall if I've done Collected Hush House lectures recently, so we'll read that one. So in 1 minute, that should give me what I need to level up level up Inks of Power using Preliminal Meter. And we have our third element of the soul free. So again, my inclination is away from these containers. Although again, I always reserve the option of going back. Oh, of course. All right. There tis and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. I mean, what can you do, right? If we get an intuition from her, I will be, like, doing backflips. Actually, you know what? I can wait 30 seconds, but I can actually probably give up the Enduring Reflection or the Horizon Sight. Whether or not I need to is another question, but a little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. So that's just going to give me the option to restore something if I need. Okay, that's another gossip. So yeah, I think in this case here I am actually going to... I'll try and preserve something of the effort. Honestly, two memories like that is a pretty good run. So we'll apply the FET here. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 9. So I'm still going to talk with Mrs. Kill. But now what I can also do is I can apply the shaft towards the Vagabond's desk. So we will take Wrapped in the King. Read this a couple of times, so I might skip out on reading the descriptions again. But now I think it's pretty unlikely I'm going to be able to work with the Inks of Revelation. So for that, I'm basically going to need 8 Moth and Lantern. What I will do, though, is I'll just get my... I'll kind of get my ducks in a row as far as... ingredients. So we've got the Impulse, Satisfaction, Revelation for sure. So Bittersweet Certainty, well, technically Foresight too. A lot of Foresight. Contradictions, those are Edge and Moon, so that doesn't help me. Hindsight doesn't help me. Intuition doesn't help me. Gossip doesn't help me. Fear doesn't help me. Storm doesn't help me. Stolen Secrets doesn't help me. Pattern doesn't help me. Solace doesn't help me. Earth Sign doesn't help me. Patterns we already covered. Cheerful Ditties doesn't. Confounding Parables doesn't. It's a tough one. Salt does not help. Regrets doesn't. Savage Hymns, no. Beguiling Melodies, no. Wow. It makes me think like I'm missing some major elements. So we know we can rely on a Newman, let's say Sun's Weakness. So Name Day Riddle 2. Sunny Day. Old Moment. Oh, Curious Hutch. Ascendant Harmony and Didymos. Yeah, so not easy, I think is the easy way for, or yeah, the easy way for me to put it. Not easy is the best way for me to put it. I think I should not expect to level up Inks of Revelation tonight. Like, an impulse is nice to have, but one, like, I can sleep on an impulse, I think. Or can I? I don't remember if I have Moth. I do. Okay. So yeah, I suppose actually that's not so bad. Having a head start for the day, I can see working. Which means I can put the Tryst back into the mix. And a lot of this, I think, is going to hinge on my ability to... let's bring in a core. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. So yeah, I think probably what I need to do here is kind of take stock. Now, again, if I really, really need to, the old moments... Yeah, you know, actually the funny thing about this is that the old moment and name day riddle, those are the two that would require inputs. If I wanted, I could actually throw almost all of what I already have in. I would need to make that decision relatively soon, but let's keep moving forward. The sevenfold slaying of the seven coiled, an account of the destruction of a primeval hour, a god who was stone. There are 12 verses. In the first, an ascendant hour, identified as the the scarred one, enumerates his justifications for destroying the seven coiled, its appetites, its growth, its enmity to humanity. In the second, a priestess puts out his eyes and scars his skin to protect him against the seven coiled's magics. In each of the next 7 verses, he destroys one aspect of the seven coiled. In the 10th verse, the scarred one bathes his priestess patron in the blood of the seven coiled to lend her power. In the 11th, they assault the temple behind the world, entering it by force. In the 12th, they swear a tripartite oath to protect their ancestors, their descendants, and themselves. So again, that was a fear that we were trying to generate for other things. Likewise with the intuition, the collected Hush House lectures. In the 1800s, Dr. Aaron Peel was invited to give a series of lectures to the Curia. They combine his pithy view of the histories with his particular brand of unhelpfully ironical insight. My apologies to Dr. Peel, I did not mean to call him bland. In 1776, the third history, Louis declares the Mask of Masks and forbids mention of the great writhing within the walls of the Palace of Versailles, although by this point worms are observed to move openly among the boulevards of Paris, sometimes even in daylight. The army is redeployed to defend the court. The mask lasts 1 lunar month and attracts several of the long abroad in Western Europe at the time, fleeing the worms or hoping to take advantage of the desperate Louis, or seeking access to the sealed mirrors of the palace, or just eager to attend the most inventive and desperate debauch of the century. Many know espouse wormish sympathies. Let 100 histories flourish, tear down the tyranny of eternity. To grow long is usually to cast off these sympathies. There would be no immortality without eternity, and eternity, we often seem to decide, is only tyranny as long as we are not eternal. One thing I could try to do is sneak in a restoration to the enduring reflection. But what do I want to give up for that? That's the question. Let's go for an intuition. Refine a memory of something of Rose. Their tizzin can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. The skill is now level 9. Its power aspects have also increased. Okay. So at Nona's desk, we are almost done our research. We're not that far in the day yet, so I'm hoping we'll have a clearer picture of what's going on later in the day. I am not above throwing the Ascendant Harmony and Curious Hunch into leveling up Inks of Revelation, but I also don't know how many memories I'm going to get out of the root stock, so I don't mind being a little patient this time, but only a little. I certainly have an assortment of memories to work with, which is nice. So, still count as midday? Better now. I'm going to put the effort into getting another element of the soul back. Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal in a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. Alright, the serpent root, a massive rootstock, shiny with age, but still somehow viable. Tiny spidery scratchings, marked with embedded eggshell shards, encode a cryptic message. Seaborn, Tyborn, Metascate sister, witch lover. The house of the moon will always have its messenger, though its messenger is different each time, in eye and flesh and heart. Fights, feats, posterns, loopholes set down against the advent of eternity by powers favoring imperfection and impermanence. Newman loopholes. When eternity came into the world, certain prudent powers arranged loopholes. The house of the moon, the persistence of possibility, the right to vengeance. In the right histories, those loopholes will open again. Any librarian can use this to establish a history and complete the game, but the Twiceborn can win a particular victory. So this is definitely a fun one. I will confess I don't 100% follow all of the details inside of it, but like the basic idea I think is kind of a neat one, and we've seen this in a couple of the books as well, like this idea of maybe a door being left open, and there's something kind of interesting about well, again, when they talk about it, right, the certain prudent powers arranged loopholes when eternity came into the world. So this idea of, I don't know, like I think maybe it's just my work experience always leads me to a point where there's always someone, there's always going to be someone who is incredibly enthusiastic about this idea, and it's always going to be perfect. And of course, it never is, right? There's always going to be something that gets in the way, or there's always going to be something that was not accounted for. There's any number of formulations that you can give for this. And so there is something always kind of interesting about the figures which they're maybe just always portrayed as the big old grump, or otherwise they're not a very popular individual. But even in something like Eternity, something big and cosmic, that you have something far-sighted enough to include either those catches or contradictions. It's just a fun idea to throw around. Okay. So what we're going to do now, I'm actually going to divide the items into things that can help me with Inks of Revelation and things that can't. So rain goes up here, ambiguous in terms of fear, and so right now we're looking for the lantern and the moth. So this works, this works. Technically we need 6 more. Now, if I wanted to go all in on leveling up Inks of Revelation, we would take the Ascendant Harmony, we'd take the Didymos, I guess the Hive's Lament, the Curious Hunch, okay. I mean, that's quite manageable. We would set aside the Faust and then the Core and the Whist. So then that invites the question, what would I do with the remaining nectar here? So probably I would want to take something like... Actually, Orchids and Narcotics is ready to go. So I'm just going to level that up right away. Right. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I thought I was losing my mind for a second there. I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Okay, so I think what I'm basically trying to do here is I'm trying to save whatever elements of the soul that I can. So the question here would be, of the things that I worked out on my list, so we have the impulse, so better sweet certainty for sure. Got the Newman. Okay, this is going to get a little tricky, but... So let's say we will go for... the bittersweet certainty at the pale desk. I think I have a good reason to actually want to read that in the next stream. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that brings us 7. Number 8 would be Revelation, Foresight, or a name day riddle. Okay, let's go say I wanted to try the name day riddle. That's going to be a little difficult given what I have available, but not impossible. See, unfortunately, I can't make that work at the solar. Okay, well, let's say if I took the Shrine to St. Januarius and this Edict's Liminal, so I could still do a name day riddle. Conceive a mothy riddle. Okay, yes. So in a minute 30, we will... In a minute 30, we will have what we need to level up. Again, everything here is going to be about recovering the difficult-to-get memories, but we'll definitely have Inks of Revelation by the end of the season. I might have kind of gone a little crazy by committing all of these all at once, but I figured tomorrow I can work on recovering them, and then anything left over we can maybe spend to opening the different containers. But I think I'm going to end this here just because there's going to be some text that we want to pay a little more attention to in the next episode. So the overall plan, we still have half the day to go through, so we'll spend whatever time we can talking with Mrs. Kill. What I think I might do with the recovered shaft, this is a tough one. I think probably with the shaft, I'll just get the I'll just feed the Stimfling, and then again that just sort of frees up the day to maybe build some more things. But all of that will be dealt with on Wednesday. So as always, Tuesday is a day off in terms of these videos. Hopefully there will be something to act in its place before too long. But until then, I hope you enjoy the day off, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.